This fall will be the 10th anniversary of the publication of Mouse, which I consider a true American masterpiece. It was written over 13 years by Art Spiegelman.
Pioneering graphic novelist Art Spiegelman.
A world-renowned cartoonist, Art Spiegelman.
Art Spiegelman.
Art Spiegelman.
Art Spiegelman.
Art Spiegelman.
This wasn't born out of a desire to teach. It wasn't born out of a desire to explain. It was born out of a desire to understand. So that for me, this was a matter of giving shape to something and trying to clarify for myself what it was that happened to my family and so on. And that's now available in some fashion.
So you hope they'll understand it. It's not teaching.
I suppose so.
Mouse by Art Spiegelman is a text that trades description for visceral imagery, ambiguity for uncensored vulnerability, and heroism for the indiscriminate brutality of surviving in war. It isn't fictional, nor is it set in a single time period. Rather, it's a paralleling narrative between Art's own struggle with creating the novel and his father's story of surviving as a Jew in World War II. It's clear that Mouse wasn't written by Art for fame or money. Rather, and uniquely, it's a retrospective into Art's psychological inadequacies, shame, and need for love. The book is equal parts Vladek's war stories and Art's experience as the son of a survivor, as he navigates the generational trauma, grief, and weighing obligation of retelling the Holocaust, pushing Art to reflect on his own self-doubt as an author and question if it's even ethical to be benefiting off the lives of his father, mother, and millions of dead Jews. This video explores three aspects of intergenerational trauma: trauma, guilt, and memory. Last one to the schoolyard is a rotten egg. Till my skates came loose. Hey, wait up, fellas. Wait up. Artie, come to hold this a minute while I saw? Why do you cry, Artie? Hold better on the wood. I fell. My friend skated away without me. Friends? Your friends? If you lock them together in a room with no food for a week, then you could see what it is. Friends. The opening of Mouse encapsulates Vladek's deep-seated trauma. His experience in war transforming him into someone so distrustful that he unknowingly transfers his distorted worldview onto his son, Art. The flashback to Art's childhood is a symbolic representation of Art's initial innocence and vulnerability before the corruption of Vladek's influence. Initially, Art was someone who trusted his friends and could see the good in people. The opening panel being expansive, emphasizing the freedom found within childhood. But as Art falls, the panel narrows. His joy is distorted into confusion, and he watches his friends skate away without him. Vladek's lesson that there are no friends reflects his own trauma. Despite surviving the Holocaust, Vladek remained incapable of escaping his own subconscious insecurities. He lost the privilege of ignorance and can no longer expect the best in others after seeing what humanity is willing to do at its lowest. Vladek isn't consciously forging distrust into Art. From his perspective, he's educating him on the reality of the world, yet through his own unresolved suffering, Vladek's trauma is translated into Art. My favorite segment of Mouse is actually a bit morbid. It's Prisoner on Hell Planet. It's a beautifully illustrated metafictional comic about Anja's suicide, the wife of Vladek and the mother of Art. It follows Art's struggle with losing her, the grief, and the parental pressure that lingered on even after her death. My favorite. Unlike the rest of the book, This subchapter illustrates humans rather than animals. Art removes the mouse mask and becomes emotionally bare to the audience. He also wears striped pajamas, similar to those worn by the Jewish prisoners during the Holocaust. Art remains culturally defined by the trauma of his parents he cannot escape. In this subchapter, through the lens of grief, Art's perspective of the world distorts. Rooms twist, the Doctor becomes a supervillain, mourning becomes hostility, and his sense of reality warps to reflect his suffering. His guilt places him in a prison of his own creation. This is especially shown through a break in a convention, where Art illustrates himself and his father holding each other in a frameless white abyss. The removal of the borders blurs the gutter and the rest of the page, reflecting the apathy and disconnection Art feels following his mother's death. Art's grief is deepened through the last moments he shared with his mother. She looks sickly, dark circles surrounding her eyes, and Art refuses to even look at her as she asks, "Artie, you still love me, don't you?" "Yes, Ma." Angie's pause reflects her hesitation. She fears what Art has to say, and Art's own inability to be an ideal son and show compassion to his suffering mother, who's reaching out for intimacy and connection, only to be turned away by her own son, leaves Art devastated by the thought that he could have prevented the tragedy and that his mother could be still alive if he had said something different. His grief is physically manifested at the end of the chapter, where Art paints himself trapped in a prison. He screams, "You murdered me! Mommy, you left me here to take the rap!" His grief is complicated, because there's no one single answer for what caused her death. He thinks to himself, menopausal depression, Hitler did it. Then his thoughts spiral into incoherent screaming, "Mommy! Bitch!" Art's paradoxical interpretation of his own mother as both a mummy and bitch reflects the conflict within the relationship. He wants to love her, but grief, anger, and distance leaves the vulnerability they both crave unanswered. Ultimately, this metafictional novel, Prisoner on Hell Planet, is a commentary on Art's own suffering, and it also reveals the contemporary issue of intergenerational trauma and the difficulty left for generations to commemorate the dead while carrying the weight of their own ancestors, such as the lost generation. To me, the middle of Mouse also feels like its end. 1982, August 18th, Vladek dies before Art can ever finish Mouse and show his father his complete work. Notably, in this section of the novel, Art doesn't illustrate himself as a mouse, but rather a human wearing a mouse mask. This shows that despite the trauma Art inherits from his parents, he remains feeling like an imposter. Though he never experienced those camps himself, he still lives with their impact. Art's struggle with handling the memory of his parents is conveyed through the following pages, where Art is literally elevated atop of a mountain of Holocaust victims, surrounded by hordes of businessmen. He is quite literally building his career on the memory of the dead, the conflicting commercialization of his trauma becoming unavoidable. Is it ethical for him to profit of his father's memory? Is he capable of giving their lives justice? Or is he just simply mishandling the memory of the war? But honestly, if not him, then who? In the next scene, Art speaks to a shrink, another Holocaust survivor. Art depicts himself as a child being swallowed into a chair. This highlights that despite his success as an author, emotionally, Art remains fragile. Significantly though, what matters isn't what the shrink says, but rather the fact that he's a Holocaust survivor. He doesn't belittle Art's work. He encourages it. "Maybe you can include that in your book," he says. The shrink acts as permission for Art to continue retelling his parents' memory, and permission to recognize that remembering isn't the same as exploiting. This emotional growth is symbolized through the following panels, where art grows and matures from a child back into a man, revealing he's always been a man, just one who hadn't yet found the stability of emotional maturity. Notably, in this section, art's critical deconstruction of his own relationship with his memory of his dead parents draws attention to the contemporary dilemma of representing trauma you haven't personally experienced. From The Boy in Striped Pajamas, written by John Boyne, Schindler's List, directed by Steven Spielberg, and Sophie's Choice, written by William Stroin, creators have continued to represent the Holocaust despite not experiencing it themselves. There's a delicate balance between the commercialization of war and keeping history alive. If we forget the past, we are doomed to repeat it. Non-Jewish creatives should still have the opportunity to bring history to life, but with the help of historians and the Jewish community. Because unlike the panels of a comic book, there isn't much separating us from war.
Otherwise, the myth-making and sentimentalization of war will continue. Perhaps with proper direction, art can become celebrations of the dead, rather than hollow, capitalistic success. And maybe, just maybe, the question was never if Art Spiegelman had the right to tell us by the story, but rather, if not him, then who?
What makes Maus so special isn't the gruesome deaths, or even Vladek's tale of survival. Rather, it's art's ability to be vulnerable, to break down the walls of societal contempt, and show the world it's okay to hurt. Because trauma, especially intergenerational trauma, isn't something you get rid of. Rather, it's something you must learn to live with.